It's 2032 and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is running for president, sitting down with Randall Park for an interview to assure the public he is not out of touch, beginning to talk about his childhood. His father, Rocky Johnson, was a wrestler, his mother's father, High Chief Peter Maivia, a Samoan wrestler. From a young age living in Hawaii, Dwayne was taught to work the gimmick to form a story or narrative that fits you and the image you want to project. His father wasn't always around much, often working. As a teenager living in Pennsylvania, Dwayne stole to appear rich at school, impressing those around him, such as Karen, who invited him to a party. He asks his parents for money to buy a car to impress Karen, but they're struggling these days with his father not getting as many jobs as he used to. He manages to buy one for $103, finding a homeless guy in the back called Waffle. Waffle helps Dwayne and his friend Gabe buy beer in exchange for a ride. Unfortunately, Waffle dies in the backseat as they leave the car abandoned. Jumping to 1990, Johnson plays for the Miami Hurricanes, with his father embarrassing him by turning up bragging. Johnson earns the team's respect, however, by impressing them in the gym. As a high schooler in 1987, Johnson became a hardcore shoplifter. Trying to impress Karen, Dwayne told her his father was the source of his family's wealth, being a famous wrestler. He manages to secure a date with her, taking her to go and see one of his father's shows. However, Rocky had stretched the truth of his latest job a little, with the match being in the middle of a flea market. Despite not initially being impressed, Karen eventually starts to get into it, hoping to one day have Dwayne take her to one of his father's bigger matches. Back at school, he knocks a kid out after he claims wrestling is fake. Meanwhile, Utter strikes up a friendship with a rich client of her cleaning business. In 2032, Johnson begins to talk about how his life changed when his father began to gain fame for his wrestling. 1982, Hawaii. He's wrestling for the WWF, however, is a little jealous of his friend Andre the Giant's success. After Johnson's mother, Leah, took over the High Chief's wrestling business. However, she's losing her clients to rival promoter Yao, who used to work for the High Chief. Utter misses her father, being inspired to start singing again, as she did with him. Meanwhile, Rocky is approached by Yao. Dwayne didn't start playing football until junior year of high school, his plan being to get drafted by the NFL and buy his parents their first home. When he left for Miami, his parents shut down the cleaning business and moved to Tampa to be closer. Meanwhile, Leah has since become homeless and was deported, losing everything. Everything is going well for Dwayne, however, until he tore all the ligaments in his shoulder during a practice session. Following this, he struggled to find the motivation to come to practice and team meetings, returning home spiraling and depressed. His parents are worried about him, with Rocky taking him to the gym to talk things through, letting him know he's not alone. Back in 87, Arta is called into school after Dwayne's fight. She's not happy, however Karen liked he stood up for himself, with Dwayne heading to the mall to buy her a gift. Arta finds him, bringing him to work with her instead, as he's suspended. He ends up stealing from her rich client, with Arta finding all the clothes and items under his bed. She sits down with her son and he admits he hates not having nice things. He apologizes, promising to do better, deciding against going out and meeting with Karen, instead staying in with his mum. Check out Batman Mask of the Phantasm Learning to Let Go, or perhaps an Upload Season 1 recap. Maybe you need a reminder of the Darksaber's complete timeline and history. At a convention in 2032, Johnson announces his running mate for vice president, named General Monica Jackson. Back in Hawaii, 1982, Leah announces the High Chief's championship belt will be on the line in a huge island battle royale. Rocky is planned to win the event. In the meantime, he meets with Yao. Arta records a song for a singing competition, with Leah changing the battle royale winner last minute after seeing Rocky meet with Yao. She didn't realise, however, that he met with him to turn him down, as he left Leah when she needed him the most, when the High Chief passed away. Back in Miami, it's 1991 and Dwayne's rehabbing his shoulder. His coach, however, says he needs to get his grades up. Leah returns to the country meanwhile after getting deported. To prove himself to the school, Dwayne gets a job as campus security, partnering with Hopkins. Hopkins shows him the ropes, skiving their duties to watch movies all day. However, a quality checker arrives to check the phones are working. Working together, Dwayne and Hopkins manage to sneak around past the checker, fixing the one phone that didn't work before she got to it. 4 years previously at 15, despite being approached by various coaches, Dwayne's only interested in one thing: Karen. After standing Karen up to hang out with his mum, Dwayne begs her for a second chance. She does eventually, but only if he brings her home to meet his parents. Still pretending he's rich, he asks his dad what to do. His dad's advice: work the gimmick harder. He turns up in his dad's fancy car trying to distract her, but the plan doesn't work. The gig is up. She admits she may be a little shallow, but is annoyed Dwayne didn't even give her a chance. Meanwhile, Rocky sells his prized car to get some extra cash for the family. Dwayne approaches the school's football coach, apologizing for earlier taking his stress out on him. He thanks him, suggesting he come and play football for him as it could help him in life. It's 1982. Star Search loved Arta's audition tape, inviting her to LA for the second round of auditions. Meanwhile, having had enough of Yao poaching her talent, Leah threatens him, telling him he now rents venues through her, as well as wanting a $5,000 tribute fee. However, he was wearing a wire, with the FBI hearing everything, confirming her involvement in extortion. Arta reconsiders going to LA, not wanting to leave Dwayne for long periods of time, with Rocky going all around the country himself. After his devastating injury freshman year, Dwayne strives to get his college football career back on track. Despite his hard work, he didn't receive any calls, being asked whether he has ever considered coaching. Very similar, Rocky, struggling for work, began coaching wrestling himself. Despite the struggles, Dwayne keeps training, promising one day he'll be able to look after his family. On election day, Johnson leads the race by a 4-point margin. Flashing back, Rocky takes Dewey to the gym for the first time, revealing that his mother sacrificed her audition to stay with him, so he needs to look after her whilst he's out on the road. Yao doesn't have the $5,000 tribute fee, paying just $1,800. The FBI has cameras in the office, however, arresting Leah for extortion. In '88, every major football program was after Johnson, but he had his eyes set on Miami. Karen was still not talking to him despite a year passing. Taking the initiative, he calls the Miami team, asking why they haven't been trying to recruit him yet, selling himself confidently. Riding high, he asks Karen to prom and keeps the Miami recruiters waiting for an hour whilst he goes to the gym. They respect the work ethic, offering him a placement. In '95, he isn't drafted into the NFL, but instead is invited to the Canadian Football League. His circumstances have changed, but plans remain the same. His goal is to crush it in the CFL and then subsequently finally get drafted into the NFL.